We must acknowledge the problematic legacy of Depp v. Heard when Angelina Jolie is referred to as another Amber Heard. A Virginia jury found Amber Heard guilty of defaming her ex-husband, Johnny Depp, 4 months ago. Despite the fact that Depp was also judged to have slandered Heard, albeit less severely, the actor from Pirates of the Caribbean won the court of public opinion. Many articles have been written regarding the trial's online format, which was televised at Depp's request and made available for anybody to watch at home, mostly in the form of heavily edited TikToks. This made it possible for viewers to develop parasocial connections with Depp and Heard because the former was praised as a cute scamp who enjoyed eating sweets in court. While many survivors, including, I should add, myself, relived their own trauma in light of what they believed Heard went through. The fervor surrounding Depp has thankfully diminished, even to the point where one Twitter user issued an apology for their words about Heard during the trial after a lackluster return performance at the VMAs and stories of celebrities unlicking his Instagram post about the trial. It's important to take into account how the trial will affect society as a whole as individuals, whether they support Heard or Depp, begin to reflect on their involvement in the poisonous discourse surrounding the Depp v. Heard case. The majority of the news coverage over the previous few days has been dominated by another case involving a male celebrity who is suing his ex-partner. In his current lawsuit against Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt alleges that she sold her portion of their once joint estate, Chateau Miravalsa, in an effort to undermine his investment and injure him gratuitously. Jolie claims that Pitt physically and emotionally abused her and their children aboard a plane in September 2016 as part of her counterclaim. The FBI conducted an investigation into the incident in 2016. As a result, officials finally decided not to file charges. Pitt hasn't responded to these allegations in the media. The BBC notes that a person close to Pitt reportedly assured the outlets that the allegations are untrue. Even though Jolie has received a lot of sympathy, there remains a troubling undercurrent of misogynistic discourse that compares Jolie to Heard. Looks like we have another Amber Heard, one Twitter user wrote alongside a screenshot of a news article about the Pitt-Jolie case, while another added, now tell me the difference between Amber Heard and Angelina Jolie apart from their age difference, husband snatching, knife loving, blood carrying, public manipulating, tears faking, news planting, narcissistic and vindictive personality traits, playbook of men hating agenda, etc. Jolie is reportedly conducting a smear campaign against Brad Pitt, according to TMZ. One of the most popular videos on YouTube for Angelina Jolie is a clip titled Angelina Jolie rages for being compared to Amber Heard in new video, which sensationalizes the conflict for clicks. The connection between Jolie and Heard is unsettling because, while there are parallels between the two situations, many are exploiting them to invalidate all victims rather than concentrating on how males deal with charges of abuse. As author and photographer Kat Cardenas notes, since the trial, another Amber Heard has become slang to call women liars for speaking out about abuse or just for being unlikable. It has been used against Meghan Markle, Evan Rachel Wood, Olivia Wilde, and others in the past month. Angelina Jolie is next. She is predictable and repulsive. Not only has Angelina Jolie been likened to Heard in the wake of the Depp v. Heard case, but court records from the trial itself also reveal that Marilyn Manson once called his wife, Lindsay Usich, Amber 2.0. Via People. Given that Manson is presently suing Evan Rachel Wood for defamation after she claimed that he groomed her as a youngster, used her, and abused her for years, this is especially frightening. Marilyn Manson released an Instagram post in response to the accusations, "When the time is right, I'll be able to talk more about what happened last year. I'm going to let the facts speak for themselves till then." It's simple to think that only A-list celebrities are subject to this disturbing discourse, and at least they get to endure it in opulent surroundings if they're going to be denigrated and victimized. But that is just untrue. In September of this year, A man by the name of Sean Lloyd was given a 2-year and 4-month prison term for assaulting his ex-partner. She claimed in her victim statement, which was read aloud before Leeds Crown Court, that she believed Lloyd had her stored as Amber Heard on his phone and that she feared he would choke her to death, via Yorkshire Live. It is obvious that this problem is not unique to Hollywood. The impact of Depp v. Heard on survivors was discussed by Carmel Offord, a representative of Independent Domestic Abuse Services, in an interview with Glamour. She noted that the public response to the defamation case filed by Johnny Depp against Amber Heard was a disturbing demonstration of why so many victims and survivors of domestic abuse and sexual violence feel unable to access support or report to the police. People quickly formed opinions and treated the trial like a sporting event, cheering and jeering from the stands. This, according to victim survivors, is one of the things keeping people from speaking out. They worry about being judged, disbelieved, and having their credibility called into question. It makes sense that many people would be worried about another, very public case taking over the press and media. The Brad Pitt vs. Angelina Jolie trial, according to Carmel, could have a similar impact on victims and survivors, she added. In both situations, the language used to describe women who report domestic abuse raises concerns because some people imply that allegations are made out of spite or retaliation. This is a fundamental misperception of those who have experienced and survived domestic abuse. False accusations are quite uncommon in real life. We are in a fragile situation as a society because efforts to remove the stigma associated with reporting domestic violence are coming under fire. This backlash threatens to drag us back to the darkness and secrecy of the past. It takes tremendous bravery and courage to speak out against abuse, and sharing your experiences can be quite unsettling since you never know how other people will react or what will happen next. Victims and survivors are both praised for their bravery and scrutinized to a degree that is unheard of in other spheres of life or in relation to other crimes. Whatever our personal opinions on these trials, we owe it to victim survivors everywhere to set an example of a thoughtful and reasonable response and to urge others to share their stories while being guaranteed of their safety. The alternative, a society where victims and survivors are afraid to speak up about abuse and violence for fear of penalties, is too bleak to contemplate. However, offenders feel empowered to carry on with impunity. IDAs have always stood up for victims, survivors, and continue to fight relentlessly to challenge misogyny and other outmoded attitudes and ideas that underlie violence and abuse, concludes Carmel. We need you to stand with us and send the message that we are here and willing to listen to anyone who has experienced the tragedy of sexual or domestic violence. Dani Zar, the deputy director of the End Violence Against Women Coalition, was also interviewed by Glamour. According to her, much of the reporting of Depp v. Heard was not only triggering for survivors but also played a role in reinforcing harmful stereotypes about victims, while showing a complete lack of understanding or empathy for the impact of trauma on victims. It is extremely detrimental to report on and publish online anything that downplays Heard's accusations of sexual assault, all of which the UK courts upheld, and downplays the significance of controlling behaviour. In the end, these assumptions discourage abuse victims from reporting their experiences, give abusers more confidence to continue abusing without repercussion, and compromise our ability as a society to put an end to violence against women and girls. It's shocking how much misinformation about the Depp Heard case there was online. Children and young people make up a large portion of social media users that interact with this content online, and they may lack the understanding of power, control, and inequality needed to critically analyze what they encounter. If we are to combat these damaging attitudes and put an end to violence against women, we urgently need the government to commit to making preventing violence against women and girls a priority, especially through proper funding for RSE in schools and multi-year public attitude campaigns.